Join 14,000 SCAR-certified members in Bermuda, and you can help reduce the risk of childhood sexual abuse. Become an advocate and a voice for our children. Get trained, get certified. We offer community and private sessions. Visit scarsbermuda.com to register for training. You'll also find valuable information and resources on our website. Visit scarsbermuda.com. Get certified today. SCARS, saving children and revealing secrets.
Hello, my name is Penny Simpkin. I'm a physical therapist, childbirth educator, doula, and birth counselor from Seattle, Washington. And I'd like to talk with you today about childhood sexual abuse and its impact on the childbearing woman. I don't know if you realize, but between 1 in 4 and 1 in 3 women around the world has a history of childhood sexual abuse, and the statistics are very similar for boys and men as well. Now, focusing on women because they're the childbearing side of things here, I'd just like to mention that the effects of childhood sexual abuse don't end when the abuse ends. They go on. The impact can be deep and long-lasting. And when the adult woman or the young woman reaches childbearing age and becomes pregnant, many issues that may have been quieted down for quite some time, many issues come up again, kind of unexpectedly.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Survivor Hour. Thank you for joining us. I'm Debbie Ray Rivers, and I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse and a mom of 2 survivors. I'm also the founder and executive director of SCARS, Saving Children and Revealing Secrets, a charity whose mission is to reduce the risk of child sexual abuse in our Bermuda community and to be an advocate and a voice for children who have been sexually molested as well as their affected family. I am joined on set with Dr. Alicia Hancock. Dr. Hancock is a clinical psychologist with decades of experience in child sexual abuse, and she's also a valued board member of SCARS. For those that don't know, SCARS Survivor Hour is a 1-hour cable TV show which provides our audience with awareness and prevention education around the topic of child sexual abuse. And it's from the lens of a survivor and the traumatic effects that it can have on a child throughout their childhood. The show is also meant to help viewers understand the emotional, physical, and psychological scars from survivors of child sexual abuse. Tonight, we will discuss the truth about how trauma from child sexual abuse can affect childbirth. We have learned that trauma-informed care doesn't just treat the mind and the body, but it protects the person. Childbirth is not only a medical event. I know firsthand that childbirth is a deeply physical, emotional, and vulnerable experience. Feeling safe, supported, and heard can make all the difference when giving birth. It can shape outcomes and lifelong memories for survivors. My memories of giving birth are extremely traumatic, and it had nothing to do with the wonderful doctors that delivered my beautiful daughters. Both were extremely skilled, very pleasant, and professional. In fact, they had no idea that I was sexually violated as a child. My doctor who delivered our first daughter, and his locum who delivered our second child, would have been really the last people I would have shared my childhood sexual abuse with. Now move forward 20 years or so later. And I remember being in the SCARS office with my dear treasured colleague, Helen Pont, my colleague, and learning that giving birth can affect survivors of child sexual abuse. And it dawned on me, and it made perfect sense that my traumatic experience of giving birth was related to my trauma of child sexual abuse. And looking back on my experience, my nervous system was through the roof. Not just from the physical pain and trying to focus on my breathing techniques, thank you, Rita, but also feeling extremely vulnerable and exposed. My nervous system was on high alert. That was nothing that anyone caused, but I have learned that it was the protective response that occurred in my body. So for soon-to-be mothers with a history of sexual trauma, childbirth can involve vulnerability, exposure, and a loss of control. It's an emotional time in the life of a survivor before, during, and after giving birth. With over 20 years of experience, hands-on experience, we are grateful to have on set with us Fiona Dill. Fiona is the pioneer of a nonprofit called It Takes a Village, a Bermuda charity dedicated to providing support to vulnerable women and their children. She is an experienced childbirth educator and a doula, and tonight she will help us understand why this topic is so important and what we can all do to support women in childbirth. So welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for being here, Fiona, and sitting with Dr. Hancock and I. Tell the audience about you and your amazing work as a doula.
Well, firstly, thank you very much for having me. This is a very important topic in my life and in the lives of all pregnant women in Bermuda. So I sound very English, but I'm actually Bermudian. I've been here for 59 years, and I have been working as a doula here and actually as a childbirth educator as well. So the two kind of go hand in hand. Because it's really important for people to be educated about the process, and I'm sure we'll get more into that. I've supported nearly 500 couples here in Bermuda, and so I've kind of seen all things, I would say. Having explored more about the impact of sexual abuse on women, it's made me realize that I have probably supported women who have experienced child sexual abuse, or even maybe a sexual experience at college or something with non-consent that would probably have had an impact on them. And I can think of a couple of people that actually admitted it to me. But I also am aware that despite the fact that I've been trained as a childbirth educator and trained as a doula, the impact of sexual abuse didn't come up in either of those trainings. Mm-hmm. And I think that is just an example of how often it's that we don't talk about it, and just the importance of that. And so that's why I'm so delighted to be here and to share what my experience and what I know about supporting birth and supported birth and the difference it makes.
Wow. And in speaking about that, what does a woman need to have a beautiful experience of giving birth?
So I think it's basically how she defines it. I mean, as a doula, as a childbirth educator, obviously I'm talking about all kinds of births. I'm talking about all the ways things can go and so on. But what we know from research, and I'm a research-based childbirth educator and doula, is that so long as a woman feels safe, feels respected, and feels listened to during the process, it will be a positive experience for her, even if she has an experience that she hadn't anticipated. So, for example, she wanted to have an unmedicated natural vaginal birth, and she ended up having a C-section or having an epidural, those kinds of things. So it's all about how women are treated during the experience rather than what actually happens. Mm-hmm. And I think there is certainly not a one-size-fits-all experience or way we would describe this. And I think that's really important, that every woman is treated as an individual. And that is part of what we do as doulas, but also it's what we should be seeing in all the care that women get.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we know that child sexual abuse is often a secret.
Yes.
Many survivors, it takes decades for them to be able to disclose. Mm-hmm. And they keep that inside them. And so, as a survivor myself, like that's the furthest thing from your mind is that you're going to be affected. Mm. But when we think about it, of course it's going to happen because we're dealing with our private parts, and that's where we were violated.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I think there are so many triggers in that. I mean, you mentioned about even, the vagina, for example, and we're talking about women perhaps needing to have vaginal exams, so penetration, those kinds of things. But there are so many triggers in the childbirth situation in terms of control, in terms of authority, in terms of being tied down, mm-hmm. in terms of just feeling that think people are doing things to them without their consent, those kinds of ideas. So I think that it's a real perfect storm for re-traumatization, right?
Yes.
And I guess one of the things we're hoping for is that the birth experience could actually be a healing experience. We also know that for some women, having had child sexual abuse doesn't have an impact on their birth experience. We know that some women actually go through their appointments and so on and so forth and feel a little unsettled, but they're not quite sure why they feel unsettled. And then sometimes if the child sexual abuse is then identified, it can give them a sense of, oh, that's why. And so then the time of healing can happen, the therapy and so on and so forth. I mean, as a doula, I know I'm not a therapist, right? I would absolutely be referring on, and it takes a village. That is what our plan is. But I think that it's just so important for just to have that level of understanding and knowing that it's a possibility.
Yes, and that level of understanding can only come when a survivor discloses,
Yes.
right? When talks about their
Yes.
their traumatic experience, and that's really hard for survivors.
Yes.
To be able to talk about that and then have to relive it, because when they talk about it, it is sometimes reliving, right, Dr.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, pregnancy just changes the body in itself, right? And so just even that alone, and it changes without consent. You have no choice once you're pregnant, when your body just changes, your hormones change, you feel things more intensely. And so, the triggers are very much going to be there,
Yes.
more than likely.
Yes, for sure. It really dawned on me in the SCAR's office about that pregnancy. My pregnancy, was my trauma from my childbirth had some sort of correlation to my sexual abuse. I really believe that, and I had amazing doctors. I know that. What I will say is I wish I would have had a doula many years ago, because I think it would have made the experience so much more. I would have felt safer. I would have felt, and that's nobody's fault. It's just that I didn't even tell anyone about it. I didn't share with someone to advocate for me in that room, because I didn't even know I needed advocacy. When you're going through that, you're just thinking about the baby, and in that moment you're thinking about the breathing, and you have some fear about the pain that you're going to experience.
And also just being pregnant and wanting, to prove that you can do it. And so sometimes that, I think, withholds women from saying anything. Like, oh no, I'm strong, I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of fear, right? And I think that's also driven by the movie version of birth.
Yeah, talk
right?
about that. What is that?
So the thing is that we know, the movie version of birth, and I understand why they do this, is because it's far more dramatic, is that the woman's waters go, the bag of membranes around the baby burst, and the waters start leaking. And it's usually very dramatic and lots. And then she immediately is in agonizing pain and is, trying to do her breathing but doesn't look very successful at it. And then she jumps in a car and she's taken to the hospital, and she jumps on a bed, and then her feet are in stirrups, and then she's pushing and being told what to do and how to do it, and so on and so forth. It looks as though it's about 3 to 4 hours. It looks absolutely chaotic and painful and awful and so on and so forth. Now the reality is that first labor is 12 to 24 hours, so there's typically no rushing. Statistically, only 15% of women's waters break before their contractions start. So in the vast majority of cases, they actually break towards the end of the labor. It is not ideal to jump on a bed and have your feet in stirrups to give birth. All those kinds of things as well. So it's just that when you've got that movie version, and I see it when people come to my classes, that's the version of it. So when we start talking about choices and options and positions and staying at home if they feel it's safe. And, you're always looking at the woman as an individual. So she may have risk factors that mean that she doesn't stay at home and so on and so forth. But, you give her that sense of agency. And then, so the fear, a lot of the fear is taken away because people are like, you know what? I think I can do this, right? Because we have this fear factor around birth in our culture.
We sure do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have other people's experiences that we hear when we're, mothers about to give birth of how painful it was, and how traumatic it was. And I mean, I even remember screams in the hospital.
Next door.
Yeah, in the next door. I mean, I remember that 34 years ago. And so I think, it makes sense to have support. When we were preparing for this show, I reached out to the first female Bermudian obstetrician who has been in practice for over 28 years, who I love and respect, and it's Dr. Terry Lynn Emery. And although she didn't deliver my babies, she tied my tubes, and she was amazing. And I had an earring in my belly button, and she just totally respected and listened and cared because I was so worried about this belly button ring. I don't have that anymore, but she was very tender in that, and listened and put it back in because I wanted to make sure it went back in after the surgery. But I asked her, I wanted to talk to her about childbirth and her medical advice and wisdom. And I would just like to read, if you don't mind, what she sent to me. And she says, as a woman's healthcare provider, I was asked to give my opinion on the need for support in childbirth for the pregnant women who have experienced sexual trauma. She said, all women require compassionate care and support during their pregnancy, delivery, and postpartum. Those who have experienced sexual assault require a little more attention and support. And I love that. Mm-hmm. Pregnancy can be a joyful experience. However, the physical changes and invasive examinations can bring back memories of past trauma, making the time more challenging. And this we've learned, right? Mm-hmm. She said, if one has experienced past sexual trauma, pregnancy can be a trigger to their mental and physical health. A provider who offers compassion can assist in preparing for the birth. An excellent support system and care team can assist in creating a positive pregnancy experience. She said it's essential that you find a healthcare provider, OB/OB, who understands their trauma and how it's affecting them, as you'll be spending several months with them. She said you do not have to share all the details of your story, as some survivors may not feel comfortable. But one should reveal to the provider that they've had a history of sexual trauma. This allows them to assist in arranging for the approximate support. An uninformed provider cannot be compassionate and respond appropriately if they're unaware. Pregnancy, labor, and birth and the postpartum period can be unpredictable and trigger feeling, as we've talked about, right, of anxiety and flashbacks. Build a support system, she wrote, a strong advocate in the delivery room, be it a trusted family member, a friend, a partner, labor and delivery, nurse or birth support coach is helpful during labor and delivery. Surround yourself with someone who you completely trust. That's a huge part for survivors. Okay. Finding someone that you can trust. Attend birth classes, create a birth plan, which I know you assist with as well, and thoroughly discuss it with your obstetrician. Reach out for local sexual violence services. And it's funny that and I respect Dr. Emery and grateful that we can give this message out there to all the healthcare providers. And so we're grateful for that. When I think about doulas, and I don't know very many people that had one because I'm old now, I'm in my 60s, and we didn't have that that option years ago. But I do have a friend of mine that is younger than I. Her name is Whitney, and I asked her, I said, why did you choose a doula to give birth? Because I wanted to come right from someone who chose a doula. And she said, Debbie, it was for emotional support and safety. And someone to advocate for me and my husband, because my husband didn't know what to expect either. And he's, so it just makes sense that we would want somebody in the room when we are experiencing something, this beautiful experience of a baby and it's affecting the area that we were violated in.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we have to do this.
Yes, 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 yes.
We have to have this support in the room.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So I think that there are all sorts of things or ways that doulas help and support couples, daddies as well as mummies.
Tell us about that.
So, I mean, it goes for all women, but it's particularly relevant for the survivor, for absolutely sure. And Dr. Emery, mentioned that compassionate, empathic care
Yeah.
is essential for every woman,
Yes.
but particularly for those who are survivors. And I think that's really important. I guess that's one of the things that doulas do provide, is that because we are a constant support and we develop a relationship with a mum as early as they contact us. So with my second, third time clients, sometimes I'm even the first to know before the daddy does. As soon as that line is on that pee stick, right? So but you develop a close relationship with the doula, and we would anticipate a few visits prior to. We would anticipate a birth planning meeting. We also have a number of skills that we use within the birthing room. There's something called biomechanics, which is like birth engineering, really just in terms of understanding the baby going through the pelvis, how you can create more space, all of those kinds of things. So it's technical as well as emotional, and that's part of what we do in terms of the physicality and the physical support, if you like.
Wow.
So we do develop a sense of trust, and there are things that people have told me that and obviously everything's confidential and so on and so forth, but it's a lovely relationship. And then we are often at home with the mum for many hours before they go to the hospital. Once again, we're not telling them when to go to the hospital, but we're providing the support, knowing what their birth goals are and that kind of thing. And then we're in the birthing room. And if the birth is 2 hours, that's great. If it's 22 hours, it's hard work, but we're still there. So we don't do shift changes. We don't, and then we do visits once the baby's at home, certainly in the hospital as well, helping with the breastfeeding and so on and so forth. So it's that continuity of care.
Yes.
And I think that if you've got a fear of abandonment, if you've got a fear of those kinds of issues,
yes.
It can be very, very comforting to know that you've got somebody who's 100% for you
Yes.
in the room.
Yes.
And that's not to say that we don't need the midwives and we don't need the OBs. That's not what anyone is ever saying.
Right, of
but
course
we
not.
provide a different kind of support. We've got the relationship before, we've got the relationship during, and we've got the relationship after, which is typically at the hospital here, the midwife that is helping support you during your labor, you may never have met before.
Right.
So you no matter how wonderful they are, and there are many wonderful midwives here,
Yes.
you just can't, you don't have that. And if you are a survivor, that trust is so important, and that
really
knowledge. And, we've mentioned birth plans. So we don't write birth plans for people, once again.
What is a birth plan?
So a
Talk to
birth
the audience
plan,
about that.
yeah. So Dr.
I'm clueless when it comes
Yeah.
to
Okay,
birth
Dr. Emery mentioned that as well.
Yes.
And so they actually ask you when you get to the hospital, do you have a birth plan? And basically, it's how you want this birth to be supported. Now, if you don't know that you have options, people are like, well, why would you write a birth plan? Surely they're just going to tell you what to do. But actually, there are all sorts of options that you have within the birthing sphere and it can give people this sense of control over the process. And if you are a survivor, once again, and you know what your triggers are, then you can be very clear. Say, for example, I do not want anyone to approach me from behind. Or I would like to wear my own clothes during the labor. Wow. Or I would like the lights on, or I would like the lights dimmed. I would like to have music playing. I would like to have, it's that level of detail It's also things like there are some interventions that are necessary, and there are some interventions that sometimes are done because that's what we do. And so once again, it's let's look at this woman as an individual. So I would like to make a choice about the things that are done to me.
Wow.
Those are the kinds of things that I think are really important. So a birth plan would be giving essential information. It might well have a birth goal. This is our first baby. We know we're expecting a girl, and we're hoping for an unmedicated vaginal birth, and these are the things that are important to me. Yeah. Or it's our first baby or our third baby, and we know we're expecting a boy. I plan to use an epidural, but I'd like to wait until I'm in active labor. And then, there's just sort of some details in
information in advance.
Information.
Control.
So it's a control.
And control.
It's also, this is me, because otherwise you're just walking in and you're like, I'm just, a 41-week pregnant woman. Mm-hmm. How do you know who I am? It's that level of information. And sometimes, I always say to people, it's not a legal document, right?
Right.
You can change your mind. You can actually go off on a completely different tangent. You
Right.
can, but if, it's something that you're working towards.
Yes.
And some people achieve their birth plan as it's written. Some people have kind of caveats in terms of, and if I have a C-section, this is what I would like. So that there is this level of flexibility, but there's also a statement of intention. And when I've worked with second-time mums that have had very traumatic first births, sometimes overseas, sometimes locally, the first thing, just knowing that they can actually write a birth plan and that there's you can see visibly.
I can imagine it already with that option.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it gives you some control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or what to expect.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I mean, the classes are key as well. I think in terms of helping people understand options, but also what birth looks like. Because if you've got the movie version, it's a scary thing.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. But if you have the if you know that it can be different,
Yes.
and so on, that can make all the difference.
Because I remember 30 years ago, I went to Lamaze classes, my girl's dad and I, and it was remembering your breathing.
Yes.
That's what I remember. And which is so important as well,
Yes,
right?
yes,
to know
absolutely.
that. And the wonderful Rita, which I think,
Rita is a doula.
Oh, she is?
Doula. Yeah,
Oh,
we
wow.
we work very
We love you,
closely
Rita.
together. We do love Rita.
We
Everyone
do.
loves Rita.
Oh my gosh, 34 years, and she's still, supporting women in birth.
I am a huge advocate, and
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Well, Dr. Hancock, one of the questions that I had on here for you was, we know that trauma can be pushed down for decades. I know that personally. But can pregnancy and childbirth cause that trauma to resurface?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said in the beginning, the pregnancy itself changes the body without any control over it. And so that lack of control with the hormones obviously changing, and then you're more sensitive to to sensory information and input, that can trigger, the trauma response very,
Right.
very easily.
Right. A memory may come, you don't even, and you may not even know, right?
Well, and it can be a sensation, right? It can be a
Yes.
sensation that you weren't expecting, and
Yes.
it triggers the memory of any part of the sexual abuse, or even any part of the perpetrator.
Yes.
And so that's why it's if you do have the history of sexual abuse, it's good to talk to somebody, let people know, let your doula know, let your OB know that you're experiencing this.
Yeah, because it's going to help you. It's going to help you when you're going through this.
Yeah.
What's a beautiful
Yeah.
experience of
'Cause you
bringing a baby in the
Yeah,
world.
you want to keep it as a beautiful experience. You want to keep it as an experience that is enjoyable.
Yes,
You know?
exactly.
But sometimes, like I said, the sensations in the body can disrupt that if
Yeah.
you're not
Yeah.
aware.
So I would want to say also
Absolutely.
that I feel that, and the research would suggest that this is an amazing opportunity for extraordinary healing, because the body is doing something, as you say, magnificent and beautiful. And so, if we get it right, and if we have women who feel that they have agency and control, and that they are not being pushed down, they are not being believed, They are not, all of those kinds
Being
of
told
things.
what to do.
Being told what,
or
being told what
judged,
to do, or judged
negatively.
judge negatively, then they can actually come out of it feeling very different about themselves. And I've seen that. I mean, I've seen that in my doula clients that have not admitted to abuse. So I don't know if that is what they've experienced, but I've definitely worked with one particular person who I know had a really, really difficult, traumatic childhood. And she said to me, Fiona, I feel different about myself now. So if we hopefully can achieve that for everybody.
Yes.
So it's that opportunity for healing. And, the birth may be the beginning, and then the therapy starts, or the understanding of what was happening, and so on. Because it's not only about the birth, it's also about breastfeeding.
Oh, okay, let's go there.
Yeah.
Because my first one, I think, got 10 days and the second one got 3 weeks, and I just couldn't do it. And not that anybody was judging me, but I felt this pressure that if I didn't breastfeed, my baby was not going to be healthy. I specifically remember that, but yet it did not feel good.
No.
It did not feel natural. It felt triggered. I know that word now. I wouldn't have used that word 34 years ago. I didn't even know that word existed. I didn't even know the word trauma existed.
Yes.
Right? We weren't talking about that, but I just knew I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do it, and it didn't feel natural.
Well, you think like it's, if anybody that is demanding something from your body and wants something from your body, then you're gonna, it can definitely trigger you, right?
And block you from wanting that area of your body to be touched, and let alone what a baby does with your breasts, right? I mean, that's huge.
Yeah. And I think it's really important for the survivor, but also the people that are supporting them, to know that, because you felt judged, and breast is best and all that kind of thing. And obviously for those that want to breastfeed, I'm a firm supporter of that. But I think sometimes we do need to think, okay, well, what is best for this mum? Because actually, having that, and so sometimes people will pump and then bottle feed breast milk, for example. That's more controllable, rather than, and also it can feel less needy. That kind of idea. So there are things, and then sometimes it's okay, this isn't right for you. Let's work on something different.
Yeah, and I think it's important to definitely, if there's difficulty in any part of the childbirth or after, it is to ask, well, why?
Yes.
I mean, that's the sensitivity question of, why is this happening for this new mom?
Yes.
Not just assume that, oh, well, just do this. Because I think sometimes the reactions are, just do it. Just do it. Instead of asking why.
But years ago, we weren't talking about child sexual abuse. No. So this would have never come up, because it was so taboo. I mean, we're slowly getting, through education, prevention education, and breaking down the walls of shame, because there's so much shame around sexual abuse. Now we're getting more, I think we're becoming more comfortable to talk about this could be why this happened. And it wasn't that people were, causing us to feel uncomfortable or judging us if we didn't do it. It's just that we felt that way as survivors. I can only speak for myself. Like, I felt that way. I felt the pressure. It wasn't somebody who was putting that pressure on me. And if they were, it wasn't intentional, because they didn't know I was a survivor.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the pressure for survivors is coming from the within of, I have rules, right? Because a lot of survivors create rules to live life, to feel safe. And so when those rules aren't followed, even if they're your own rules, or you don't follow the plan, then, it elicits, it can elicit a trauma response as well.
And especially for survivors who the spillover is perfectionism.
Yes.
I want everything to be perfect.
Yep.
But childbirth is not, things happen. I ended up having retained placenta, so I had to go up and, and deal with that. But we still don't know, was that a result of my total anxiety and stress level? We'll never know, right? And so education is so important, to be able to just share these things in advance, so that we're not triggered. We're not having extra anxiety on top of what it is already bringing this baby into the world.
Or even knowing that you might be triggered, and knowing how, and associating it with the trigger, but then also know how to cope with it.
Managing it.
Managing.
Containing it, grounding, all the things that you would probably give, the skill set that you would give somebody in terms of what to do when you are, and all that kind of stuff. And even as a doula, it's helpful for us to know where I would have a long list of things that could potentially happen to you during the process, and would be able to say, and so how does this make you feel? The idea of this make you feel, and so on and so forth, and then be able to create something that would be able to support them in managing those, and recognizing that sometimes things are out of your control, and that and we need skills for managing that as well.
Yes. Yeah. Dr. Emery mentioned, she said, would be very interested in developing a peri and postpartum support system to assist survivors. For example, a program similar to PSOT, Partum Support International, PSI. It's in the U.S. apparently. I've never heard of it.
No.
But I think postpartum, as we know, that is a real thing.
And there's more depression. There's more suicidal ideation. There's more psychosis within the survivor
dissociation.
group. All of that.
And there you are, a new mom.
Yes.
Responsible for this new little precious baby, and you're feeling all these things. It's so hard for moms.
And you can, like, and if it's not normalized, you can start to feel really bad about yourself. You know, like, oh my gosh, this is just me. So normalizing everything that they could experience after childbirth and after the baby.
And then don't even talk about lack of sleep. You know, so now
what
you're
that can
dealing,
do.
That's on top of that. That
good trigger.
causes you. That's a great. And you become, you know, even more emotional. And then, you know, I remember years ago, it was like, you know, just get over it. Like, you're a mom now. Like, no, this is tough. This is really, really hard.
I think that's a good point because, you know, you were saying that nobody talked about child sexual abuse years ago. I don't think in the birthing sphere people talked about women having choices either.
Right.
Back in the day. It was much more managed and so on and so forth. So that's why, in some ways, this is, you know, we are living in a different period. But to go also back to the point of the postpartum, so part of what It Takes a Village offers is birth doulas. But they are actually what we call community doulas, because we recognize that there are some women that will need support during the birth, but also afterwards. So we offer postpartum support as well. So there's a postpartum doula, but it's if we've helped and supported their birth, then it will usually be the same person. So they've developed that level of trust to be able, and that is when, particularly when either families are not involved, or there is no supportive partner, or they're just feeling completely overwhelmed with their situation. This is somebody who's trained. Who could go in 3 mornings a week for 4 hours just to, you know, do some light housekeeping, let the mum sleep, let her take a shower, maybe if she doesn't have transport, take her for an appointment. So there's a lot of stuff, and also you know, we're kind of growing in our understanding of the you know, the people that we're supporting, and treating everyone as an individual. I mean, that's what it all comes back to. You know, so you know, that would be the almost the takeaway. That just So.
And it feels very proactive.
Yes.
You know, like, you don't want to wait until you're at, you know, ground, you know, rock bottom to seek help. If you can be proactive and say, have the postpartum.
Absolutely. And our vision as a charity is the emotional and physical health of our community, because how we give birth makes a difference, and then also how we support our vulnerable and so on. So you know, if we can help people have a great start in pregnancy, in birth, and then postpartum, then you know, that's the goal.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Your organization, because would you say that, and thinking back now, sitting here, that it could affect the unborn baby for moms who are, talk about that, the stress and of what's coming, you know, like you said, the lack of control, you know, feeling very vulnerable. Now you're, you know, let's be honest, we know where the baby comes from, right? So, you know, that's going to be affect, you know, because you've been violated. That would all that stress then affect that?
Oh, definitely.
That unborn baby.
Definitely can. So if, you know, so pre-birth, you know, while the female's pregnant, you know, many times they can experience dissociation, so kind of an out-of-body experience where the mind and body disconnect. And, you know, once that happens, that can be very, very traumatic. And, you know, you want to help them in that situation to kind of reconnect, to say it's safe to connect again, because you don't want to not experience the pregnancy.
Yes. Yes, because it's a beautiful thing. You want to be present. That's why your work is critical.
Yeah. We also see in survivors, for example, it's the sort of body keeps the score kind of idea, right? So, so for example, you know, even if a woman doesn't remember the abuse, it's manifesting. And I have a wonderful statement here, which was, where is it? Oh, I've mixed everything up here. But pregnancy vindicates the truth of memories of childhood sexual trauma. So it basically, you know, if nobody's believed you before, it's during pregnancy, your body kind of shows you that this. It reminds you, so it vindicates the truth of it. But I think that we also see, for example, more hyperemesis gravidarum, which is nausea, severe nausea, vomiting, and so on in survivors.
Wow.
Or you can certainly manifest that. And so, if you deal with the trauma of the sexual abuse, the sickness can go.
Wow.
Or be diminished.
Well, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
It makes total sense, because our bodies are what has been affected.
Yes. Yes.
Violated, right?
And so we sort of also, you know, various illnesses within the pregnancy, maybe those kinds of things. So we know it's that body keeps the score thing that I think is so important.
Psychosomatic.
The psychosomatic stuff.
And for those listening, there is a body called that. My Body Keeps the Score. And SCARS has that body, not the body on our website, the book on our website, under SCARS resources. The Body Keeps the Score. It's a difficult read, but it's an important read.
Yeah.
And speaking of books, this was the book, When Survivors Give Birth, that is really understanding and healing the effects of early sexual abuse on childbearing women. Really amazing, and we're playing some videos throughout this episode that's really powerful. So your work is critical, really critical. Tell the audience how people can reach you, how moms can reach.
So we have a website, www.ittakesavillage.bda.com, and that's how they access our services. My email address is on there. They can email me. I also feel that if people are interested in not necessarily the birth doula services or even the postpartum stuff, but maybe some education around the process, but also how can they help themselves in terms of managing the putting together a birth plan, those kinds of things. I'm very happy to offer that kind of service as well.
Okay.
And all our doulas will be trained in the ways that doulas can help, particularly survivors as well, and recognizing it and so on. Because as I said, in our trainings, it's not addressed, right? And these are high-level certifications. It's just not a thing. And so I think it's made me even feel it's even more important to be having the conversations and just giving people a way of saying it. Because as you've mentioned, there's shame. Sometimes there's not. I don't even know that this is having an impact on me and all of that kind of stuff. So it's just helping people have that permission to be honest about it.
Yes.
And even in terms of how it's making them feel, because I'm aware that when I'm doing my workshops and I have 9 couples sitting in front of me, that there will be people for whom I'm actually talking and they are feeling at that moment triggered. So the opportunity, I'll say if any of this is bringing up anything for you, then, contact me outside the class.
Love it. That's trauma-informed care. We hear a lot about that now. Trauma-informed care, empathy, compassion.
And I think, if you lead with it and kind of normalize it for them, then they're more likely to, to say, hey, this could be an issue.
Yeah.
Feel free to contact me, because I think the awareness that you would be equipped to know how to talk and how to help them.
Sure. Yeah. I one of the things that I'm very clear about is boundaries in my professional life, and areas of competence, and areas of training, and so on and so forth. So what I would say in that situation is that, once again, I'm not a therapist, but I know that you can help somebody start a therapeutic journey just by the kind of care you give them. So for the OBs and the midwives and the people that are supporting, it's about that level of care, because you may always you can provide that empathy and so on that will start the healing process. But we also are hoping, as part of what we do at It Takes a Village, is when we do find that we have a client that would want to start the healing process even before her baby's born, is to provide the funding for therapeutic services.
Wow.
And
amazing.
And that's because it takes a village.
How true is that? That's so true.
And even, so even after birth, once, you have the child in your hands, you can still be triggered very easily just by the attachment can get affected with the child. Again, this child is needing you, and you don't necessarily have control over when somebody is seeking you out. And
that's a very important point.
Like somebody is demanding something from you. Think about how that triggers a memory of somebody, the perpetrator, demanding something from you. Differentiating that can be very difficult. So it can affect the attachment with the child.
Yes.
If the survivor isn't aware of the connection.
Yeah. I mean, child sexual abuse, it runs deep. It does. And it affects so many areas of our lives as survivors. And so that's why this conversation is so important. Awareness is key, and support is key. And so on behalf of SCARS, we can't thank you enough for the work that It Takes a Village does, and all your doulas, and grateful that you can be an advocate for those who have been sexually molested and their affected families, because that's what you do. The partners in the room, the fathers, and even probably other outside family members, to help understand, like, things are, it's not what it used to be 34 years ago. Now we're not saying just get over it. What's wrong with you? No, we're gonna try to help you, because it's a lifelong process in surviving child sexual abuse. It really is, and it does take a village. So any last thoughts or anything you want to add, ladies? Talk about this beautiful experience of bringing a baby in the world. There's nothing better than that, and we want them to be, to feel that connection with their mother and father, and that safety and that calmness and that peace. There's nothing better than that, right?
And the healing.
And the healing. Yeah.
So thank you so very much. We really appreciate you and your work.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
This childbirth period is a period of vulnerability for the woman, and if she is treated in a kind and positive way, she can be empowered by this experience and do an enormous amount of healing in a very short time. And that's the potential that lies with every woman in the birth experience. So I just want us to think about those millions of women who are sexual abuse survivors, and think of the impact that we could make on their birth experiences if we just understood a little better and had the willingness and flexibility to modify our care to meet their needs.
Join 14,000 SCAR certified members in Bermuda, and you can help reduce the risk of childhood sexual abuse. Become an advocate and a voice for our children. Get trained, get certified. We offer community and private sessions. Visit scarsbermuda.com to register for training. You'll also find valuable information and resources on our website. Visit scarsbermuda.com. Get certified today. SCARS, saving children and revealing secrets.